Hello everyone, it is me Derpy. As promised in my last video, we'll be doing a comparison between Xiao and Ganyu just to see who's a better pull for who. I have both characters and use them for a while now, so I can't say who is better for who depending on those three categories we'll be taking a look at. Going from what I think is the most important to least important, those categories are design / playstyle, damage, and then finally investment. Enough said, this is a real long video, so let's jump right into it. I always suggest everyone to pull characters if they like their design or playstyle and not really look too deep into numbers. Ganyu is a cryo bow character offering incredible damage per charge attack. She has two very different playstyles, freeze or melt comp. Freeze comp takes effect of the 4-piece wither set, freezing enemies and boosting our crit rate by 40%. This playstyle is very easy to play and does not require a lot of skill, and a lot of players prefer this type of playstyle over the other playstyle. The other playstyle is Melt Ganyu, also my preferred playstyle. As the name suggests, we use our charge attack to melt with some off-field pyro character. If you are wondering how you can melt with two charge attacks, I'm not going to explain that here, that's a topic for another video. Melt offers a higher DPS ceiling, but requires a little bit more skill and timing on our part, but it is very fun and does incredible amounts of damage. There's actually a third use for Ganyu, and that is sub DPS for when you are done nuking everything with one arrow. For Xiao, there's two playstyles as well. One of them is you press elemental burst and you plunge attacks. The other one is unlocked after you C6 him, giving you an elemental skill reset after you hit two opponents with plunge while in your elemental burst state. But if you're watching this video, you're probably not considering any C6, and if you are, you're probably really like that character already and you probably don't need this video to help you. And also a quick note, for everyone that is considering constellations on Xiao, don't, because they are not great. So who is each character for? Xiao is great for players that like to be in the face of enemies, doing really fast paced playstyle. And if you don't like setup, then Xiao doesn't require any and you can just go in with him and do all the damage yourself. Ganyu can be great for players that like to be distanced from the enemies with your freeze comp, while also giving you the option to be in the face of enemies doing incredible amounts of damage with Melt Ganyu. And lastly, she also works for a support as well. So this is what I'm guessing most people care about, and that is damage of these two characters. This will be the longest section of the video and the reason why this video took so long to make. I could have easily gone into the game, did some damage on some bosses and said who's a better character, but no. I decided to go the hard way using some spreadsheets. Looking back, I should have just gone into the game and did some damage calculations there because that would have been so much easier than doing this stuff, but I was already too deep in to stop. Let's go through everything we need to consider for this damage comparison, and just a reminder, this is just an estimate of damage, unlike what you see this in the game, and also you shouldn't base your pulse off of these damages. So because I don't want to explain every single little detail, I put some of the boring stuff on the screen right now, like talent level, weapons, artifact set, stuff like that. If I didn't do this, the video might have been a 20-minute long video. I originally had everything set up for damage with party buffs, but only solo characters and no party damage, but later decided I should just only use a solo damage comparison with no buffs, but that didn't really show what damage is like after doing proper rotation and buffs. But doing rotation also skews the results in favor of Xiao, since he does 95% of damage solo and we're doing a solo damage comparison here today, while Ganyu does more like 70 to 80% of damage by herself, with the rest coming from sub DPS characters. So it was a hard decision, but in the end I just decided to just include both, but you decide if these numbers are worth it for you because some of them are really skewed towards Xiao and some of them are skewed towards Ganyu. The only way we can really judge these damage without favoring one of the characters is to do this like with all the characters and all the party member damage and buffs together over full rotation, but I don't have time for that, and the only way I could have time for that is doing them in the game, but I don't have the sum of the characters or the 5-star weapons I used in this comparison, and I need to get the artifact with the right amount of substats for the substat distribution I use, which is the Kitchen main 20 liquid, 20 fixed for each character. And I just don't have time for that. Sorry. But some of you guys might be wondering, how do you even do damage comparison? Do we just take a look at what one plunge attack does and what one frostflake arrow does and say who's better? Like I wish it was that easy, but no. We'll take a comparison of the damage after full rotation of each character with 100% field uptime, and take a look at some of the damage of the average, not just crit, but the average crit and crit rate damage overall. So because I originally had everything set up for full rotation, the proper rotation for Freeze Ganyu normally would be Ganyu ult followed by some animal character ult Mona E into a Mona ult with Omen extension, and then charge attack spams. For melt comp, it's much easier to consider. It's just a duration of Shinning ult, which gives enough time to actually get 6 melt shots off. But since we're doing also like 100% solo on a field time damage comparison, we need to add 2 more shots just to fill up those rest of the time that we are on the field, just to make it even with like Freeze Ganyu. But more problems arise when I had to take a look at Ganyu ult, because believe it or not, the icicles don't drop randomly and hope it hits something. Ganyu ult drops 50 icicles in total in 15 seconds, or 1 every 0.3 seconds. It will target an enemy that has not been hit by one within the last 4 drops, and when they are hit, they get marked for the next 4 icicle drops. If there are only marked enemies on the field, that means all the enemies in the field has been hit within the last 4 drops. It will just drop it somewhere randomly and it can still hit an opponent. So how do we calculate the number of times an actual icicle hits an enemy? Well, we could just take the worst case scenario and say only 10 icicles hit, or I could just go in game, use my Ganyu ult, and then count the number of times that way, and that's what I did. I did 10 Ganyu ults on Primordial Bishop for an average of 24 icicles hit. This number could be a lot more accurate if I did more runs on different sides of the enemies, because believe it or not, Primordial Bishop, he's kind of big and he takes up half of the ult space himself. So he basically has a 50% chance of getting hit no matter what. So yeah, I could have done a lot more tests on different sides of enemies, but I really didn't have time. I had Genshin open for like 2 days now running tests, and I didn't even start on the script of this video yet, so I just had to get moving. We can also only really expect 18 or so of the icicles to actually get hit with an Omen buff damage boost, since we cast Ganyu out first, and after rotation and everything, a quarter of the icicles probably already dropped on the field, and we can't really expect 18 of them to actually get the damage buff. Just when I thought I had everything to start doing the math, I remembered Xiao has a talent that increases all damage by 5% every 3 seconds when he using his ult. And because the combo we are using, which is an N1 CHP or normal attack, charge attack, high plunge, or simply known as the jet combo, the timing on these damage buffs becomes very close, and you have to really watch closely when they kick in. So I had to spend like an hour just scrubbing through footage frame by frame looking at the damage. There might be some errors in there. I had to guess few of them if the damage buff kicks in or not, but I tried my best and try to be as accurate as possible here. So I think that's everything now, and we can look at the total damage. We can see that Xiao has the least amount of damage, with Freeze comp coming slightly above it, which about 11% more damage, and Melt doing about 32% better damage overall compared to the Xiao comp. I'm not really surprised by these numbers, considering Xiao usually does less damage compared to Ganyu, but these are still interesting to look at. Is that in even like without buffs, Melt Ganyu does incredible amounts of damage. Now let's apply the buffs, and again these buffs skew the damage in favor of Xiao. In reality, the damage is probably better for Freeze Ganyu, as we're missing around like an animal character ult plus Mona ult damage. So in favor, it should be a lot more damage towards Freeze Ganyu than Xiao. So we can see that Xiao and Ganyu, Freeze Ganyu, be more precise, has about the same amount of damage. That 1000 damage is very minuscule and will not be noticed, while Melt Ganyu steps way ahead with way more damage, doing about 46% more damage compared to the Xiao or Freeze Ganyu comp. So what does all of this mean? Does it mean Ganyu is a better character? Pull for Ganyu, why even bother with Xiao? Ganyu does more damage? No. If you're worried about trying to clear Abyss and you can't do a Xiao, don't be worried. The damage is very good on Xiao, and you will be able to clear all content with these 2 characters, and you should not be worried at all. The point I'm trying to make here is that you don't need to worry about damage when pulling for characters, unless one character is severely worse than the other character. Then yeah, that might be something you have to consider. But when looking at these 2 characters, the damage is very close and you'll be able to clear all content. Having more damage doesn't really matter here for us. And if you're free to play, it takes a long time to save up for these characters, so please pull for something you actually like playing and not something that does more damage. The last section is not really important, but still something to consider, and that is investment. You probably don't want to be building these two characters 2 months in after getting them because you're still trying to farm artifacts. So the best artifact on Xiao is 2-piece Gladiator or 2-piece Shinigami plus 2-piece Viridescent, while Ganyu needs a 4-piece Brother set for freeze, or 4-piece Wanderers or 4-piece Shinigami again. I can tell you right now that Xiao will be easier to farm. Getting 2 good pieces on 2 different artifact set is much easier than getting 4 pieces of the same set that is good. And you might already have a few really good Gladiator pieces you can use. If not, you can just farm Shinigami. 4 pieces of anything is a pain to farm, and most likely you will have that 1 piece just missing and you had to settle for something just mediocre. And with Ganyu, you really need Brother's Spirit if you want to play Freeze Ganyu, or you might really want to have Wanderers where it's 4-piece Shinigami if you're going for Melt, and the investment on Melt Ganyu is very high considering the amount of effort you put into farming artifacts to get both crit rate and crit damage up. Also, Xiao's team investment is really low since he does 90% of the damage himself, while Freeze Ganyu does most of the damage herself, and Melt Ganyu does about a little bit less of damage herself and a lot more coming from support. So you had to consider that as well. So if you want something to be really easy to build, get Xiao. If you want something you can spend a little bit of time building and then perfecting your character, you can pull for Ganyu. So that is everything you need to know about these 2 characters, considering which one you need to pull, and hopefully you made your decision in this video. Xiao is great for people that don't like to spend a lot of time building characters, someone likes to be in the face of the enemy, doing really fast-paced attacks. While Ganyu can be better for a bit maybe slower playstyle or faster if you want to play Melt Ganyu as well. So thank you guys for watching this video, and I hope you guys found this helpful and sticking to the end. If there's anything else you want, like a video guide or character comparison on, leave a comment below and I'll try to make them all. And hope you found this video just a little bit helpful, and best of luck with your wishes.